Executive Council of Tuskegee University. of applause for the 7th President of Tuskegee University, Dr. Brian L. Johnson, and Presidential Party.
You may be seated. Good morning. I'm Dr. Tamara Floyd-Smith, Professor of Chemical Engineering and Assistant Provost, and I have the privilege of presiding today. As you're probably aware, today is the 15th anniversary of the September 11th attacks on the United States, and I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge this anniversary, and I thought I would acknowledge it by sharing my story. September 11, 2011, I was completing my dissertation. So to our PhD students and those who have earned a PhD, that may bring back memories. I was scheduled to start my first job after college in 2 weeks. So I was furiously writing my dissertation, and my lease ended on August 31st. So I was staying at a friend's apartment who was on her honeymoon in Egypt. And a friend of mine, a mutual friend, said, "You have to be out of there when they get back from their honeymoon." So that was my charge, and I was furiously writing. My phone was ringing. My friend's home phone was ringing, and after about 10 separate phone calls, I thought maybe I should answer the phone. And I did. I answered the phone, and it was her sister, and she was panicked. She said, "Turn on the TV." That's all she could manage to say, "Turn on the TV." And I turned on the TV, and I couldn't believe it. I saw one twin tower still standing, and one had already been hit. And I thought, wow, that was a freak accident. How do you fly into one of the twin towers? I didn't think anything about it until I saw the second plane fly into the second twin tower, and I thought, this is no freak accident. So our lives changed forever after that point. But America the Great, in my opinion, we have rebounded. Nonetheless, let's pause for a moment of silence for those almost 3,000 people who lost their lives in that senseless terrorist attack. Let's pause. Amen. All right. As a teacher, I'm all about engagement. So I need you to repeat this one phrase after me. The secret to getting ahead is getting started. I need some enthusiasm. The secret to getting ahead is getting started. All right. The quote you just repeated is from Mark Twain. I felt it was appropriate to have audience participation because number one, it's the weekend, and number two, it's very early. And that's not a good combination, is it? So you may not be fully awake, but moreover, this is opening convocation, which signals the end of the start of the school year. I'm going to repeat that to make sure you get that. It signals the end of the start of the school year. So after today, consider yourselves full throttle. Per the printed program, I would like to welcome the class of 2020 and new students, returning students, faculty, staff, administrators, eminent associates, and other guests. We are very pleased that you could join us for the Fall 2016 convocations. To the students and faculty, we trust that you are settled in and gaining momentum for the start of the school year in order to successfully complete the semester with the 4.0. If you're students and if you're a faculty member, leave the semester without additional gray hairs. So students, if you've completed your first exam of the year, say aced it. That wasn't very confident. Let's try that again. If you've completed your first exam of the year, say aced it. All right, that's better. Faculty, if you've given your first exam of the year, say training future scholars. So I'm looking at the faculty and I saw 0 mouths move. So let's be role models for our students and try this again. If you've given the first exam of the year, say training future scholars. All right. Anyone, if you enjoyed Dr. Mae Jemison on August 25th, 2016, say astronaut physician. And finally, you know I have to get this one in. Faculty, if you've completed your mandatory Starfish attendance survey, say compliant. All right, I'll be checking. Dr. Brumfield. Indeed, we're off to a great start. Before I invite Dean Gray to the podium, I want to share a few more quotes about starts. This is by John Dewey. Arriving at one goal is the starting point to another. So this to me means whether you're arriving from high school or you're a returning student, achieving last year's goal of graduating from high school or finishing freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, that's the start of this year's goal. The next quote is by Buddha. There are only 2 mistakes one can make along the road: not going all the way and not starting. You're here, so you're started. Now finish, and we'll see the evidence at the 2017 scholarship convocation. The final quote is by Plato. The beginning is the most important part of the work. That to me says start strong. At this time, without further delay, I would like to invite Dean Gray to the podium for the invocation, which will be followed by the congregational hymn, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Dean Gray.
Let us receive the invocation. Here we are, O Eternal Spirit, from across the state of Alabama, from across the United States of America, from every corner of the earth, in pursuit of a quality education here at Tuskegee University. Grant that as we embark upon this academic enterprise, we have minds that are curious, minds that are searching, minds that are inquisitive, minds that seek a broader perspective, a deeper understanding, and a more serious appreciation of humanity and the human condition in which we live. Grant that this academic enterprise will provide the knowledge and the skills, the structure and the discipline that will enable us all to make a more constructive contribution to society and to the world. And in light of this Patriot Day, may it also remind us of the importance that we recognize we all dwell upon this same planet to share the same resources and to do so in peace, for the sake of which we pray. Amen. Let us all stand.
Of course, you may be seated. Next, we'll have our greeting by our Student Government Association President, Ms. Destiny E. Green, followed by our anthem, which will be given by our Golden Voices Concert Choir. Destiny.
Greetings to the students, faculty, and staff of Tuskegee University. I would also like to greet our 7th President, Dr. Johnson, and our esteemed guests who have returned home, our eminent associates. This year marks the 135th Fall Convocation here at the illustrious Tuskegee University. Although convocations take place throughout the academic year, Fall Convocation has to be my personal favorite due to its significance it holds at our dear mother Tuskegee. It set the tone for the academic year. This is a grand opportunity for students to get excited and inspired about the academic year and set their standards to new heights. It should not only inspire the students, but it should also motivate the faculty and staff to push Tuskegee in more ways than one. Fall Convocation is an opening celebratory ceremony that will set the framework for what is expected out of every single one of us on this campus. It is my hope that you are inspired and compelled to do brilliant things this academic year. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Golden Voices for that wonderful selection. And some of you may not be aware that I am a Tuskegee University undergraduate, and I used to sing with the Golden Voices. Yes, I did. And I sang for 2 years, but I was an engineering major. And at some point, it became overwhelming because we traveled on spring break. And while others were enjoying the location, I was working on design projects. So it lasted 2 years, but those 2 years were some of the best 2 years of my life. So thank you for that selection. It was wonderful as usual. And now I have the pleasure of introducing the individuals who will introduce our speaker today. They are part of the President's Men and Women Leadership Program, a program that did not exist when I was an undergraduate. And it's one of the many great initiatives that President Johnson has started since his tenure. Jasmine Goodman, a sophomore in political science, and Jonathan Pulliam, a junior English major, will introduce President Johnson, and then President Johnson will come to deliver our fall 2016 Convocation address. Jasmine, Jonathan.
Good morning, I am Jasmine Goodman.
And I'm Jonathan Pulliam. It is our privilege to introduce today's speaker, Tuskegee University's 7th President, Dr. Brian L. Johnson.
Since arriving at Tuskegee University, President Johnson has been hard at work and has several signal accomplishments for reflecting the theme under his leadership of Trust the Tuskegee Tradition, Trust the Tuskegee Trajectory, and one of his notable sayings of never offer a word without an accompanying word.
These accomplishments include online degree programs, enhanced infrastructure and technology, including a new analytics platform, new electronic employee evaluation systems, new outcomes, new budget modules, online transcripts, and 7 gifts of $500,000 or more to the university.
Additionally, while all of those are very notable, as students, we are most excited about his implementation of the student engagement initiatives, including the Lyceum series, Common Reading First Year Experience, and the President's Men and Women Leadership Program, of which we are both a part of.
From the program, I have learned so many things and enjoy being with like-minded students as we were equipped with tools to utilize here at Tuskegee and outside in the workplace. President Johnson is a person who understands and values the voice and the wishes of the faculty and students and integrates them into his plans for the university.
Yes, President Johnson does actually listen to what we have to say and is working diligently to implement the ideas of all while making a positive change for the university. I have learned that he is a man who is authentic, original, and is always the same in whatever context you engage with him. He has opened my eyes to become more insightful, taught me how to think more intellectually, and has had a big impact on me as a student.
In closing this introduction, many across the country are taking note of President Johnson's leadership. Not only has he been featured on the cover of Diverse magazine, but he is featured in this month's Ebony magazine as one of the top 5 HBCU presidents. Earlier this year, he was awarded an honorary doctorate from Mercy College, and just this week, he will lead a historic convening of foundations and corporations on behalf of Tuskegee University and the Indiana Lilly Family School of Philanthropy.
Lastly, our president is happily married to his college sweetheart, Ms. Shamika Barnes Johnson, and is the proud father of his 2 sons, Brian Asa Johnson and Nathan Morgan Kadesh Johnson. Tuskegee University, please join us as we welcome our 7th president, Dr. Brian L. Johnson.
Thank you, Jasmine and Jonathan. Let's give them another round of applause. They represent our very best and brightest here at Tuskegee University. Of course, all of you students should know when I reference the very best and brightest here at Tuskegee, I'm referring to all 3,000 and approximately 88 students as of today. On this morning, I'm intrigued by the song. The song discusses I Dream of a World. And on today, I am going to be talking about not necessarily being a dreamer, but being a seer. Now, there are several groups and persons who will be introduced here at different points at today's convocation, but I want to first of all acknowledge some important student groups. The first student group I want to acknowledge is that triple championship award-winning softball team. If you are a representative of that team, I told you that the first time I step up in front of the university, I will make sure that I make a point of acknowledging you. But this softball team has won 3 straight championships, and I think it's worthy of honor, and I just wanted to make sure that I recognize you. Members of that softball team, please stand. Maybe they're somewhere practicing, but make sure you tell them that I did acknowledge you. We also will have these important students acknowledged later, but I want to make sure that each one of these student groups are acknowledged by the president today, because it's one of the reasons why we're here, and I want to make sure that we are all aware of that. We thank Ms. Destiny Green for her leadership of SGA, and at this time would like for her cabinet to stand. The SGA cabinet, will you please stand? The Student Government Association. They will be formally presented at a later time. We also at this time would like for the Miss TU Court to stand, including our Miss Tuskegee University, the Miss TU Court, and of course, Mr. TU Court. We have our student ambassadors, I believe for brunch, there will be student ambassadors that will be joining me, or is it the new student orientation leaders. But I'd like for both the student ambassadors to stand at this time. If you are present, please, student ambassadors, please be acknowledged. We're going to have a little waffles and chicken a little later. And also student orientation leaders, because I believe the student orientation leaders were the ones leading your groups. And so if you are a member of the student orientation leaders, please stand at this time. Last but certainly not least, I would like to thank our faculty and staff, and they have walked in and marched in, so we don't need to have them to stand, but maybe we should go ahead and do that and get them a little revved up, because some of those responses to Dr. Floyd Smith was not as loud as we wanted to, so maybe if you guys stand up and shake the energy around. Let's acknowledge at this time our wonderful faculty. Please stand. Wonderful faculty. And we have some special guests and visitors today. They will be properly and formally acknowledged later. And these are our eminent associates. I've had the pleasure of being formally, I suppose, inducted into the eminent associates as a presidential associate this year. But they will be formally presented on later. But at this time, I'd like for our eminent associates to please stand. These are persons who give to the university, and they attend this ceremony annually to be recognized for their giving. Before I begin my talk a little bit, I woke up to a couple of pieces of good news, and I really appreciate the introduction that was given, because I firmly believe that any person that offers words should have works that accompany them. The very first thing I was pleased to receive news of, they made mention of a convening that this institution will be holding in Indianapolis, and this convening has a number totaling at this point 35 different organizations, corporations, and foundations that will be joining us in Indianapolis for the sole purpose of supporting our students. The sole purpose of partnering with us either through grants, gifts, partnerships, research opportunities for our faculty, or capacity building gifts. And we're really excited about it. And so this morning I woke up and I received an email indicating that one of these foundations will not be attending. And at first I was a little bit nonplussed by that. I was a little upset. But in the last paragraph they said, well, we really don't need to attend because you can plan on receiving a grant from us in March. And that is the kind of thing that I feel very good about. You need not come if you're already going to commit to giving. The second thing I was deeply impressed by this morning was my enrollment management team, under the capable leadership of Ms. Burden, sent me a data analytics report. As you are aware, this institution is moving to become data informed and outcomes oriented and knowledge based. And having data at the tip of your fingers is always important. So when alumni ask you questions and you don't know where that information is, it's very hard to be able to communicate confidently about what I'm doing. But I'm very pleased to say that September 10th represented our reporting date in terms of who our students are and where do you come from and how many of you are here. And I was very pleased to not only receive those large numbers, but a breakdown of who you are. And at this time, I'd like to share some of that with you. Our student head count this year is 3,080 students. On last year, our head count was 2,995 students. Our budgeted FTEs with students represents 2,205, when last year we were at 2,099. Now, for our students, you may not know what the difference is between head count and budgeted FTE. But I assure you, in the management of a university, we look at the budgeted FTE because we rightly give many of you scholarships, but we also, as a nonprofit institution, have to continue to increase our revenue, and we thank our students and our parents for doing that. The other piece I wanted to add is that we have approximately 391 majors that consist in the College of Agriculture and Environmental and Nutritional Sciences program. We have 103 majors who are in the School of Architecture and Construction Science program. We have 829 who are in the College of Arts and Sciences. We have 419 that are in the Business and Information Sciences. We have 55 in the School of Education. We have 561 in the College of Engineering. We have 547 in the Division of Vet School Medicine, and we've yet to separate out our School of Nursing and Allied Health, but I'm sure that both of those numbers will be very strong. In addition, we're pleased to tell you a little bit about where you come from. We have about 703 students, full and part-time, that comes from the state of Alabama. We have about 287 that come from the state of California. We have about 115 from the state of Florida. We have 471 from the state of Georgia. We have 153 from Illinois. I should probably allow you guys to shout that out, right? You know, represent your different regions. We have about 46 from Louisiana, 64 from Maryland. And I know I could go on and on and on. I just wanted to make sure you hit some of the big ones so that you can shout a little bit. Texas has about 103 here. And in total, we have 48 different states represented here at this university. And in many ways, it's a testament to the brand of Tuskegee University and its reach worldwide. Now, we didn't ask me to come and offer these statistics or some of these signal successes as we begin the start of this school year, but we've asked me to give me an address. And one of the things about giving an address at the beginning of the year is that you're trying to do something that will inspire. You're trying to do something that will inspire our faculty, our staff, and our students. But most importantly, we're trying to do something that resonates. This is the 135th convocation. This is my third opening convocation. My first fall convocation, I talked about, let your light so shine amongst men that they may see your good works, not your words. The second year, fall 2015, I talked about you gotta go deeper to go higher. And this year, it's very ironic that Wayne Barr chose the selection, I Dream of a World, because that's in keeping with the talk that I wish to give today. And this talk comes from a biblical passage involving the prophet Elisha. And of course, it's a Sunday. I don't presume to be Chaplain Gray. I don't presume to be a priest or an imam or a rabbi. But I did wish to give you some sense of encouragement and inspiration. And there was a scene where the prophet Elisha was sitting with his servant. And in that scene, they were surrounded by the Syrian army. And at that time, his servant was very frightened, very scared, because he said, you see all of those chariots that surround us. They're going to get us. We're going to die. And the prophet Elisha responded simply by saying, there are more with us than with them. And he didn't understand it, his servant. Servant couldn't see beyond that circumstance. And so Elisha said, Lord, open his eyes. And when he opened his eyes, he saw flames of angels and chariots surrounding. And immediately he began to see what Elisha saw. And so I say to you today that my title is very brief. It only has 4 points. It's directed to our faculty, our staff, our students, our entire community. It's be a seer. Be a seer. And I want to begin with the following. George Washington Carver talked a great deal about where there is no vision, there is no hope. And it's very easy to not have hope when you're not looking beyond certain circumstances. And so one of the points about being a seer I wish to offer is that you must begin your academic year, your research year, your teaching year, your administrative year by declaring the end from the beginning. Now that term comes from the book of Proverbs. We know that at the beginning of the year, we all have hopes and we all have dreams. But I find it very important that you see what you would like to be, and you must see it from the very beginning. Dr. Floyd Smith talked a great deal about starts and how you start, and the key to success is actually getting started. Well, I personally believe that if you cannot see your end, you'll never get there. If you are a student, if you don't see yourself having a 3.5 or above on your transcript that's documentable, you will likely not reach that. I would ask you to see it from the very beginning, you standing at many of our honors convocations and award ceremonies. To our faculty members who are writing books and grants, if you do not see yourself smiling with that book or grant, if you do not see yourself receiving that check for that research, then I assure you, you will likely not ever achieve it. I believe that from the very onset, every single person ought to see things in fruition before they actually come to fruition. Our administrator unit leads who are in charge of our different administrative units, if you see an efficient process in the beginning, you're likely to understand what you're after as you proceed towards the end. I'm asking you to be a seer, and in that regard, I'm asking you to declare your end from the very beginning. The second point is that seers, they see beyond the circumstances. Now, we all know that I use a term a great deal in reference to Ray Charles, and it's no disparagement to Ray Charles. Ray Charles is one of our greatest musicians. But the ideal is that most people can tell you about the circumstances. But there are very few people who can be a seer beyond the circumstances. Students, you will see the circumstances in some cases with your dormitory rooms. In some cases, you will see the circumstances regarding technology capacity. In some cases, you will see the circumstances in a number of different areas during your time here. But let me assure you that all 3,080 of you see the very same circumstances, including your faculty, your staff, your administrators, your president, as well as your board of trustee members. But what I'm asking you to do today is not to be a seer of circumstances. Ray Charles can see circumstances. I'm asking you to become a seer beyond circumstances. You know, there are several important quotes that go around a great deal. And I find that one of the most important quotes that I like to see just in terms of comical, but yet it has a great deal of influence and impact. It talks about how eagles have a different perspective than turtles. The turtle can only see at his level. An eagle can see at the very highest of levels. And what I'm asking you to do is to make sure that in your flock, in your groupings, in your trusted colleagues, in your trusted peer groups, your trusted friendships, that you're making sure that you're running with seers beyond the circumstances. You will find in your administrative ranks, your colleague ranks, your student ranks, there will always be a person that can tell you why you can't do something, why the circumstances prohibit you from doing something. I'm encouraging you to be a seer beyond the circumstances, and that will take the kind of independence, intellectual fortitude, and most importantly, integrity and character, because in those days when you are trying to see beyond circumstances, I assure you that you will have a host of persons to remind you of what those circumstances are. Thirdly, I wish to give you some encouragement about seeing the good in the struggle. Now, when I arrived here at Tuskegee University, I learned a great deal about, and freshmen, have you heard about the Tuskegee struggle? You've heard about the Tuskegee struggle? Yeah. Well, let me tell you that this Tuskegee struggle is no different than many other institutions at many other universities, particularly our sister and brother institutions. But what do I mean by seeing the good in the struggle? Many of you will encounter alumni and successful persons, including the president who graduated from an HBCU, who looked at the time at those struggles as being difficult and hard, and you're mad and you're angry, but when you look back at that struggle, you found that there was good in the struggle. Tinashe Coates was going to be our common reading experience this year, and he wrote a book which was quite powerful called The Beautiful Struggle. We all talk a great deal about overcoming odds and obstacles, but how many of you know that you actually have to have an obstacle to overcome in order to be an overcomer? If you learn to find the good in the struggle, you'll find that the weight of opposition that you're pushing against makes you stronger. You will find that overcoming the odds in your classroom or in your pursuit of a grant or in pursuit of changing something in your unit, you will find will deepen you, deepen your perspective for greater opportunities. Students, when you go into universities for the summer and go into corporations that may have the kind of technology and capacity that you do not have here, you will find that you have been trained 10 times better because you can do it manually and you can do it through technology. That does not mean that we will not work to get you technology, but I want you to know that you will stand in no wise lesser than any other person that has a whole institution filled with technology. We as a people have always overcome through struggle. It's not new to us. However, what's new to us is that we are individuals now who only know how to talk about struggle. We only know how to talk about the circumstances. I'm reminded of Booker T. Washington, and if anybody had challenging circumstances, it would be him. He arrived and saw a place that was not fit for an institution. He came and saw a shack, but what he saw were students, and he focused on that, and some 34 years later, he built many of the same buildings that we rest in today. This story is echoed throughout the African American community. They were not simply sitting back saying, oh, what are other people going to give to us? Well, what is the president going to do for us? What is my faculty member going to do for us? What George Washington Carver, Robert R. Taylor, Booker T. Washington said is, what are we going to do for ourselves? They found the good in the struggle. George Washington Carver didn't have a lab, but has more patents and more scientific achievements than our professors throughout this nation, and they have the best technology labs in the world. What does that tell you about us? Booker T. Washington himself led an institution, and he was not simply the greatest HBCU president, he was the single greatest president in history. One of the reasons why we are having a convention in Indianapolis at the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy is because of their deep regard and admiration of Booker T. Washington. They said, did you guys not know he was not simply the leading fundraiser amongst black schools that assisted other African-American institutions receiving those funds, but he was one of the greatest fundraisers in the history of universities and colleges. What you should know about that is, to this day, Tuskegee University, in terms of its assets and property, we are the 12th, hear this, 12th largest landholder in the nation among colleges and universities. Not amongst HBCUs, in the nation. So we have this wealth, we have this property. But I'm asking you to find the good in the struggle. To lower, as he indicated, casting your buckets down where you are and pull up what you can pull up while you're here at Tuskegee. I tell students all the time that I'm not interested in you sleeping in those dormitories for the rest of your lives. When I went to college, my wife went to college. One of the very first things I began thinking about when I entered into one of those dorm rooms was where I would live 25 years from now. Obstacles are what you see when you take your eyes off the goal, and I encourage you to become a seer to find the good in the struggle. My last point, in order to become an effective seer, and I encourage you to read that passage once again from the prophet Elisha and his servant. Because what you'll find is that seers see without self-interest. They see without self-interest. Here's a little piece of wisdom for each and every one of you. And it's from Leo Tolstoy. He says, if you wish to know the truth, first of all, free yourself from all selfish interests. If you wish to know the truth, first of all, free yourself from all selfish interests. Why? When you seek after truth, you obviously seek after it from your own perspective. How does it affect me? What's happening to me in that truth? But when you separate yourself from that self-interest and you wish to inquire about a truth, what you begin to see is, wait a minute, if it doesn't have anything to do with me, I can see it a little more clearly. Well, let me tell you that all truth is colored by self-interest. And in order to be a seer, whether you're the captain of the football team, and I appreciate Lacey's performance yesterday at Albany State, or whether you're the head football coach, or whether you are the softball captain, or whether you're the volleyball captain, or the cross-country captain, or the coach, when they are there casting vision for their team and making decisions, they have to remove themselves from self-interest. They know that they have multiple people depending on them, and it's not simply one person that depends on them. They have to see it from a variety of interests, and in particular, if they themselves may be affected by that decision, they must learn how to remove themselves from self-interest. This is what I'm asking you to do today. I'm asking you to be a seer without self-interest. I'm asking you to lead, grow, and become successful, not simply because it's for your selfish reasons. I want you to lead because you are going to affect your families at home. I want my faculty members to write books and get grants, not because of their own self-aggrandizement, but for our students and for this university. I want individuals to give, not so that they can be honored, but I want them to give without honor and give to our interests, which we have examples of with our eminent associates. They give without self-interest. We want you all to be mindful that achievements, even as Ms. Goodman and Jonathan read, Achievements are not about yourself if there's no impact to those you're leading. So in closing, I'd like to encourage each and every one of you, our faculty, our staff, our students, to be seers this year, to find and flock with seers, to reject and resist, and I dare say ignore those who wish to keep you focused on the beginning. I want you to see the end. I want you to reject and ignore those who would have you to simply talk all about circumstances. I want you to be a seer beyond those circumstances. I want you to reject and avoid anyone who wants to constantly talk about the struggle. I want you to learn to see the good in the struggle. And last and certainly not least, I want you to flee selfishness and self-interest and become a true seer, like our founding principal, Booker T. Washington, who saw much of what we are experiencing today and indeed sees a better hope and a better future for us all. Thank you all, and God bless you.
I can't speak for anyone else, but I'm inspired, I'm encouraged. I was planning to go to church after Convocation, but I may have gotten a word already. I didn't quite note the scripture. I know it's from the Old Testament. Be a seer. That was awesome. So my take-home point is I need to write it down. I need to write down what I need the end of this academic year to look like. I need to be a seer, and I encourage you to do the same. At this time, we'll have a spiritual, King Jesus is a Listening, by the Tuskegee University Golden Voices Concert Choir. Thank you again to our Golden Voices. At this time, Dr. Caesar Furman, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, will present the class of 2020 and other new students. President Johnson will then perform the induction. Provost Furman.
Good morning. Will the class of 2020 and all other new students please stand and remain standing for the induction? Mr. President, as the Chief Academic Officer of Tuskegee University, it is my pleasure to present to you and to the Tuskegee University community the class of 2020 and other new students. Please help me give them a round of applause.
Good morning, class of 2020. I failed to point out something quickly, and I want to say this to you all. As you guys were streaming in, you know, I had a dream about that back in 1997, and it was really shocking. And it's amazing, we're talking about dreams, and we're talking about seers, and we're talking about, I'm telling you, and you guys all went in uniform, and my wife will tell you, and those who are close to me know that I'm a journaler, I'm a dreamer, and I'm a recorder of visions. And you guys wait sure when I see you again that I tell you about that dream, because it was really interesting. But all the same, I don't want to encourage you to keep coming late though to these convocations. Make sure you're here at 9:30. But we love you and we appreciate you being here and for choosing Tuskegee University. At this time, will you guys please repeat after me? We, the class of 2020, and other new students of Tuskegee University, commit ourselves to be exemplary of the rich heritage that has been imparted to us, both in and outside of the classroom. We commit ourselves to become serious and civil participants in the Tuskegee experience, to abide by the policies and guidelines of the university, and to honor its noblest traditions by our continued pursuit of excellence. We pledge to further develop in ourselves high standards of integrity and competence. We will strive to become authentic seekers of truth through the structure and discipline of this university. We aim to acquire the best that this institution has to offer through its mission of teaching, research, and service. May we never forget that along with this grand opportunity comes an equally grand responsibility to preserve and enhance this institution for generations to come. We dedicate ourselves over the next 4 or more years to an academic preparation which is rigorous, thorough, and effective. For the rest of our lives, we will engage in lifelong learning, empowered to compete with confidence in a rapidly changing global society. As an expression of our global citizenship, we recognize the infinite worth of every human being, regardless of nationality, ethnicity, race, gender, class, or religion. We will meet life's challenges by acknowledging our common humanity and strive with courage and dignity to make life more humane for all of the world's people. Welcome to Tuskegee University class of 2020. Faculty, staff, alumni, please stand and greet our newest members of the Golden Tiger family. And applaud. Thank you. Thank you.
You may be seated. At this time, we'll have the presentation of the officers of the Student Government Association for 2016-17 by our VP for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management, Ms. Regina Burden, followed by the presentation of the Eminent Associates and Pre-Alumni Council by Ms. Kimberly Holland. VP Burden.
Good morning. I stand to introduce to you the leaders of the Student Government Association, Miss Tuskegee University, Mr. Tuskegee University in court, and gentlemen and the Tuskegee University ambassadors. As I call your names, will you please stand? Representing the Student Government Association is President Destiny Green from Utica, Mississippi. Austin Victoria Turk, Mobile, Alabama. Renita Denise Brooks from Garner, North Carolina. Jamarcus McCall, Birmingham, Alabama. Events Coordinator, Alani Maria Hodge, Valley, Alabama. Chief of Staff, Jasmine Simone McNair, Jackson, Mississippi. Executive Secretary, Jessica Lillian Dedeaux, Wiggins, Mississippi. Marketing Director, Julius Lewis Cherry from Augusta, Georgia. Our Elections Commissioner, Miriam Hammond, is at work today, so she could not join us. Miss SGA Kiana Jade Wiggins from Atlanta, Georgia. And Mr. SGA Torius Dion Moore from Atala, Alabama. Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce to you our Tuskegee University ambassadors. Danique Jingeli, McDonough, Georgia. Kwame Hudson, Castro Valley, California. Lauren Jenkins, Ottawa Hills, Ohio. Melody Wilson, Birmingham, Alabama. Shakiria Evans, Greenville, Mississippi. Janice Thomas, Metter, Georgia. Taryn Stewart, Birmingham, Alabama. Jasmine Roberts, Montgomery, Alabama. Cheryl Dixon, Atlanta, Georgia. Destiny Miller, Baltimore, Maryland. Justin Smith, McDonough, Georgia. Carrie Jones, Chicago, Illinois. Destiny Green, Utica, Mississippi. Adetoyasi Obikoya, Mobile, Alabama. Diamond Woods, Helena, Alabama. Ken Pointer, Birmingham, Alabama. Tanisha James, Fort Mitchell, Alabama. Cortland Brown, Jackson, Mississippi. Jamila Rice, Fresno, California. Again, Miriam Hammond from Marietta, Georgia. Brooklyn Hornbuckle, Birmingham, Alabama. Jalea Rutledge, Birmingham, Alabama. Courtney Lee, Houston, Texas. And again, Jamarcus McCall from Birmingham, Alabama. Thank you to each of you. Miss Tuskegee University in court. Miss Tuskegee University, Deja Malicia Hatcher from Byron, Georgia. First attendant, Morgan Janelle Dean, Montgomery, Alabama. Second attendant, Jasmine Nicole Roberts, Montgomery, Alabama. Our first and second attendants, Mr. Tuskegee and First Gentleman are not here today, but we have Mr. Tuskegee University is Kenneth D. Butler from Huntsville, Alabama. Our first gentleman, Gary B. Green from Auburn, Alabama. And our second gentleman, Jalen Myers from Atlanta, Georgia. I would like to say a special thank you to our escorts for today, Mr. Michael Keith from Marietta, Georgia, and Nathan Martin from Austin, Texas. Thank you to each of you, and I look forward to working with you and supporting you.
Good morning. I have the pleasure of introducing the Pre-Alumni Council. Will you please stand as I call your names? President Paul Morrison, Jr., Bowersville, Georgia. Vice President Larissa Anderson, Detroit, Michigan. Treasurer Kiana Gibbs, Indianapolis, Indiana. Secretary Sanchez Roll from the Bahamas. Programming and Planning Chair Jewel Coleman, Birmingham, Alabama. Membership Chair Brittany Evans, Chicago, Illinois. Fundraising Chair Marissa Anderson, Detroit, Michigan. Public Relations Officer Portland Brown, Jackson, Mississippi. Senator Terrence Glover, Chicago, Illinois. Parliamentarian Eric Brown, Atlanta, Georgia. Historian Precious Kukong, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, Pasadena, California. Senator Proxy Fanta Yora, Niger, West Africa. You all may be seated. I would now like to ask Mr. Solomon Banks, Chairman of the Eminent Associates, to come up to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Johnson, the deans, the faculty, staff, new students. The Eminent Associates program consists of alumni and friends who have made a commitment and have the capacity to provide financial contributions on a sustained basis to Tuskegee University. And we have been doing this since 1965. And hopefully we'll continue to do it forever. We had our annual meeting Saturday morning, and many of the associates had to leave before this fall convocation. But I would like to ask those who remain to please stand and be recognized. Thank you. At our annual meeting held on Saturday morning, we made a commitment to increase our membership by 300 over the next 3 years. We also made a commitment to increase our contributions by $500,000 next year. Last year, alumni contributed $2.3 million to the university. Of this amount, 85% came from members of the eminent associates. We established a goal, but because of the dollar figures not yet available to us, although we know that at our national convention held in August, alumni contributed $400,000+ at that convention. We're still determining how much of that was contributed by eminent associates. So as soon as we get that figure, plus the amount of money that we contributed yesterday at our meeting, we will be able to determine next year at this time how much we gave. We usually present a check, a symbolic check, to the university at this fall convocation. But because those figures are not yet available, we will not submit that symbolic check. But Dr. Johnson, I want you to know that we have made the commitment to continue to contribute, and you can be rest assured that that commitment will be honored, and we thank you.
Thank you to our eminent associates for their generosity to Tuskegee University. At this time, please stand for the Tuskegee song. Yes, please stand for the Tuskegee song, followed by the benediction by Dean Gregory Gray. Dr. Barr.
now may the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you peace.